All right. What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Marcusi Show. I am your host, Marcus, and this show is presented by absolutely nobody. Don't know why I felt like saying that, but we are doing this right now, right off of the Bruins 4-3 loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning on a Monday evening, a matinee Monday, and it was definitely a fun game. This isn't going to be a game review. This isn't going to be a quick 15, 20-minute me rambling about, my thoughts on the game, but I thought I would wait to do another one of these pods that I usually do until after this Bruins Tampa game, because I felt like it would really, after this game, we'd really begin to formulate and evaluate in total what this Bruins team is, what their identity is. And it's clear that after this game, there are some telling things that we should go over. I also wanted to recap the weekend. You guys know I love doing my in the system thing, where I kind of talk about what some of the prospects are doing, some of the highs. Obviously the highs, we only talk about the positives here, or I like to talk about the positives here, but there are some positive things that are happening within the prospect pool. It's a new day as a Bruins fan. It's still a good day to be a Bruins fan, as it always is, even though they just lost. So just wanted to do that, wanted to get into, the prospects a bit, and then we'll get out of here, go on with our day. But anyways, as I said before, this is right after the Bruins versus Tampa game, and I wanted to take the 4-game sample in as a whole. Obviously, in this game versus Tampa, you lose. You were down 3-0 and 4-1 early in the second period. But taking all the games as a whole, I just want to evaluate how these 4 games have gone for the Bruins. You play Washington, who's considered a competitive team, one of those teams that should compete for a playoff spot, obviously, especially considering what they did last year. And then you play Chicago and Buffalo. That was your 3-game sample heading into this one. And I know it's not going to be a game review, but, it's fresh in the head, so it's sort of going to be. You look at how the Bruins have played in these past 4 games. Washington, you're starting out on the road, playing a good team like them, and you edge out a good win. You edge out a good win against them. You show that compete that we were looking for. Swayman plays a very solid game. PK stands out. And then you get to Chicago, you get to Buffalo, you have those wins. And some people I've seen say, yeah, it's Chicago and Buffalo. Those teams are put on like the lower echelon of tiers among teams in the National Hockey League. They're projected to not finish as high. I also want to mention that the Bruins, heading into this season, were placed in that category by majority of the writers who I've seen do their 32-team rankings. I saw a lot of people putting the Bruins at 26th, 25th, 27th. They were in that range. And that range is where the Chicagos are, where the Buffaloes are, the teams that are competing or in the race for Gavin McKenna. You come into a game like Tampa, okay? I know the start let's be honest, it was iffy. It was sloppy. Turnovers led to goals for Tampa. They pounced on you. They took advantage. They were up 3-0 and 4-1 early in the second period. It was good forecheck play. They took advantage of the mistakes the Bruins made. That is something that, as a team that wants to compete, you can't have. But, I'll stop it right there, because after you were down 4-1, you almost clawed your way back. And I know the Tampa Bay Lightning were 0-2 leading into this game. I know they were winless. But the Tampa Bay Lightning are one of those playoff teams that you are trying to compete to play against. This is a team you're going to play on national television in February at Raymond James Stadium. Okay, this is going to be a matchup where everyone in the nation is going to be watching you. So when you take a look at the preseason perception of how the Bruins are going to be from the national media, you take a look at what they do in their 3-game sample heading into this game, okay? Some consider them not battle-tested for a real opponent. I would say Washington was already that, but then some people could consider it like first game luck. You're playing a real top-tier opponent like the Tampa Bay Lightning. You start a bit iffy, you dig a bit of a hole. But the way this Bruins team played for the second half of the game, I can't help but be proud of that. I can't help but be proud of that. With everything I just mentioned in what I just said. With everything I just mentioned, I can't help but be proud of the way the team played in the second half. You got to fix those mistakes from the first half. But last year, I'm going to mention last year a lot throughout this year. No matter what happens, that's what we do. We compare last year, we compare it to this year. Last year's Boston Bruins team would have rolled over, folded, called it in, you know? And it happened a lot. I myself, as a Bruins fan, admittedly, I couldn't find myself watching those games where it just, like, you know, they just, every single second I'd look up from my phone, they just allowed a goal. That's kind of how 2024-25 felt for me as a Bruins fan. It wasn't sunshine and rainbows, guys. So the reason I say I'm proud is because to see the team not throw in the towel, not fold, not roll over, they stayed in it. They competed. They used the P&V that Cam Neely talked about. They demonstrated the competitiveness that Don Sweeney had mentioned in previous press conferences. What the vision that the front office was looking for from this team, and even what Marco Sturm has been looking to do with his system. The straight X's and O's style, simple game, getting back to the basics. It works. It has worked in these first couple of games. You're starting to understand and get an identity of what this Bruins team is going to be. And through that evaluation, I confidently want to say, from the way they've played in these first 4 games, there is no way, in my mind, that the Bruins will be in contention for a top 10 pick. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, there's a lot of things that can go on throughout the season that could change that. But it just does not feel like, based on this game against the Tampa Bay Lightning, based on the way they played in the second half of that game, I don't think you're going to be competing for a top 10 pick. This Bruins team has some fight to them. They did not shy away. Even when Tampa was pushing them around the net, they did not shy away. Victor Arvidsson didn't shy away. Victor Arvidsson, is not the biggest guy on your roster, and he didn't shy away from pushing back. I believe it was Yanni Gord who he was pushing with. There was a lot of pushing and shoving in this game, that's for sure. It makes me even more excited for the Stadium Series game. So, yeah, I gotta go back to what I was saying. So just in looking at what built up to this game, their style, you could see it. They have that composed, simple game. But just to see it in this one, you weren't placed as a competitive team. You weren't considered a team that was going to be able to compete like this by the national media. And you just went out and competed with a top of the cream of the crop NHL roster like the Tampa Bay Lightning. You just competed with them, and you came back. You almost did. You almost did, down to the last second. I mean, David Pastrnak didn't score, but he made a save. He made a save, and he laid a huge hit to keep it a 1-goal game. The Bruins that I know last year would have probably allowed that empty netter. It probably would have been that empty netter, and I would have changed the channel. I'm sorry, that's just what it was. But now, seeing that improvement from this game, I feel so confident about the trajectory of this hockey team. It cannot be understated that this team is a different NHL team. And it's because of the way they stayed in against Tampa Bay. I loved watching this game. I loved it. Some highlights from the game. Zacha had 2 assists. Jordan Harris, the hometown kid, the Haverhill kid, scored his first goal as a Bruin. He's got, I think, it's 2 points in 2 games because he had an assist to Pavel Zacha in the Sabres win too. Going back with all the positives though, like in a game like this, you look at a team like Tampa. Yes, you know they're good. I will not underestimate how offensively dominant they are. How much pedigree this Tampa team has. Like John Cooper's the coach. I mean, I know Vasilevsky wasn't even playing, but you got some good top tier players in that lineup. Okay, I understand that, and I understand the position the Bruins are in. But you're competitive enough of a team where you shouldn't go down. You shouldn't go down that far. You shouldn't go down that early in a game. So for me, that was one of my biggest takeaways that moving forward, I hope can improve with the roster. But then again, in turn, it's still good to see how they clawed their way back to almost winning. They fixed up their game. They did a mental check. And you saw more and more throughout this game against Tampa, they generated more chances. Offensively, they started to get it together. It was good. It was good to see all around. And Korpisalo had some great saves and some good moments when we needed him to. As always, Korpisalo, if there's anything I can trust him with, it's a good clutch save. I love seeing that. So, and faceoffs too. The Bruins were like 70% in this game. That's insane. I have to mention that. You were also 0 for 5 in the power play. We got to start potting some of those boys. We have to start putting those in the back of the net. Hopefully they will, but you can tell throughout these games the penalty kill hasn't allowed a single goal. They have not allowed a single goal. The Bruins penalty kill has been solid. Got to work a bit on the clearing. I'm saying overall, got to work a bit on clearing it out and actually like safely getting it all the way down the ice. But in turn, they've been solid. The goaltending has been solid. Special teams in general, it's just much better. The goaltending is consistent. It's consistent. You know what you're getting out of Swayman. You know what you're getting out of Korpisalo. The one thing that hasn't been consistent, though, this will be a bit of my transition. I'm glad with the way the Bruins have played. Overall, we should all be very, very happy and extremely proud of this start to the season. We should be extremely proud of it, and not just the results, but overall the way the team has played. Bruins fans should be very confident. Second thing, Elias. I always mix the two up in my voice. Hampus Lindholm is set to travel with the team to Las Vegas. He was considered day-to-day with, I still want to say it's an undisclosed lower body injury. It was his leg. It wasn't his knee. It was his knees, so don't worry about that. It's not the thing that kept him out for 65 games last year. But, real quick, got to shout out Jordan Harris, Haverhill legend, Massachusetts legend, hometown kid. Goal and an assist in his 2 games with the Bees so far. Nice little plug and play 7th defenseman. I was going to say in my last video when Lindholm got injured, I was like, get ready to learn Jordan Harris. And boys, we're learning Jordan Harris. Well, I'm loving what he's bringing to the team as a 7th defenseman. The Bruins do a really good job at finding good 7th defensemen. I don't know what it is, but I feel confident in having him as a plug-and-play defenseman on that blue line while Lindholm is out. With that being said, not that I don't want to see Jordan Harris sideline, but at the same time, you need Hampus Lindholm. You need Hampus Lindholm because going back to this game specifically, a guy on the defensive end who would be composed in breaking the puck out is your $6.5 million man. That's what Hampus Lindholm is there for. Hampus Lindholm is there to guide your offense on the blue line. He easily, he's your best offensive defender, in my opinion. He's the best offensively driven defender, the best transitional defender, if not Mason Lohrei, but there's development to be had with Mason Lohrei. Lindholm is the most composed offensive defenseman we have on this team. And you could see that we needed him. We needed him on that back end today to start the game. I can't stress enough his importance to the team as that, second defenseman behind Charlie McAvoy. That second defenseman, McAvoy's the star, and then Lindholm's like your second best guy. That's what I'm saying. But Hampus, not only does he have those attributes, those positive attributes towards your offense, as a defenseman, he got the A. He got the extra A. There's obviously the debate of who's going to be captain, and I'm not saying it's going to be Hampus Lindholm, but the obvious two players who are going to get A's, Charlie McAvoy, David Pastrnak. The third guy was Hampus Lindholm. It cannot be understated the leadership he brings to the team. If he was the third A, it has to be put out there. So obviously he's day-to-day. Obviously he's traveling to Las Vegas with the team. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign. But I just hope that his injury isn't something that's going to persist as the year goes along. Because I'm going back to 2024-25. He was easily one of the best players on our team before he got injured in November. Easily one of the best players. So when you talk about what you need from him, most important, there's all the things he can do. And he can do a lot. You need him to stay healthy. You need him to be there. You need him to be 100%. Because I was trying to look back at the film and seeing what sidelined him. I couldn't exactly tell. I had a post on my Instagram from Robert Chalmers had the clip of his final shift. I couldn't tell what the issue was. So I'm hoping it's nothing. I'm hoping it's, he can get back because I want to see him back. Peake's been playing well. I've been loving his defensive game. He's been blocking shots. You love to see it. Zadorov, cannot emphasize it enough. Guy is laying the body, and he's staying composed, staying out of the box. I love seeing that. I love seeing that. The fourth line, drawing penalties, forechecking well, being speedy. Murat Hustindinov has really impressed me. He's in my opinion, he's due. I picked him to score today. Wasn't able to, but that's okay. His counterparts, Corrali and Kostelic, were able to get on the board. All in all, this team, there are parts of it that we totally expected them to be. Like, there were areas of their game where it's like, yeah, this was expected. And then there are areas that I feel like are pleasantly surprising us. So I'm all in all happy, but bringing it back, yeah, if you want to see this team at full strength, continuing to compete the way they are, Hampus Lindholm's got to be back in the lineup. So fingers crossed, guys. Fingers crossed he's okay, but it's good to see Jordan Harrison there. Real quick, I want to touch on. So we did the overview of the past 4 games. Just wanted to touch on that. Oh, yeah, in the system. Said I was going to do the segment. Gotta bless y'all with a little recap of what's been going on with the Providence Bruins, and most notably, yesterday, which will be 2 days from now because I'll probably be posting this on a Tuesday morning. The AHL season has begun for the Providence Bruins. Just gotta touch on the Providence Bruins. Started focusing on them last year with the way the big club was playing. It's really fun to see how good this Providence Bruins team is. I want to really quickly just show you guys how stacked we are at the AHL level. It's honestly insane. I'll read the lines. I'll read the lines for the team. The Providence Bruins starting lines. Ready? This is how stacked the team is at the AHL level. Steves, Luckmelis, Lysell, Harrison, Farinacci, Bancroft, Merkulov, Patra, Blumel, Tufte, Brown, Duran, Callahan, Sweezy, Brunet, Soderstrom. I was getting into the defense there. Aspero, Gallagher, and then the goaltending is Simon Zajac and Michael DiPietro. If that's not a Calder Cup contending lineup, I don't know what is. The Calder Cup is the championship trophy in the AHL. If that's not a Calder Cup potential lineup, I don't know what is. Like, we're stacked. We're stacked at the AHL level. 3 standouts from that game. From this Providence Bruins game against Charlotte. They won 6-3. Fabian Lysell scored a hat trick, notched an assist. Matt Patra had 4 assists, and 3 of those were on Fabian Lysell's goals. Alex Steeves also notched 4 points, a goal and 3 assists. But I wanted to highlight our 2 homegrown prospects in Lysell and Patra because we talked about it in a few earlier pods about, you know, how this team was going to be, and with the players that were sent down, there was a lot of it confused. I'll say it confused me. It confused many of you in the sending down of Matej Blumel. Also, I should mention in the season opener, Matej Blumel scored an overtime winner against Bridgeport. Pretty good. We have a pretty good crop of young, talented players. Forwards, I should say, defensemen too, but forwards that can dominate at the AHL level. And it's showing through these first 2 games. But I wanted to highlight something within this. The Bruins, the Boston Bruins, that is, throughout the season, I'm really interested in how they're going to go about letting these young guys or giving these young guys NHL time. Because I watched a bit of the Providence game. I was watching a bit of it while I was doing some of my homework, grad school homework. I'm looking up, looking down. I heard on the broadcast, like, whenever Lysell and Patra were out there, it's just like puck on a string between the 2. It's like, I don't know if you guys played 2K, NBA 2K17, but it's like orange juice. When like you and, or what was it, Orange Justice? I forget. They were like, they're just connected. They play so well together. And it showed in this game, watching it back. Fabian Lysell wants an NHL spot. He wants an NHL spot. I'm hoping that if these young guys, now yes, the Bruins at the big club level, they're competing, they're playing well. We love to see it. That's great. That's all good and well. But I'm wondering how they're going to go about their promise of or not promise, but their statement of, if young guys play well, we're not going to hold them back. I'm wondering how they're going to go about that. Because if we get, I'm not saying Fabian's going to score another hat trick. I'm not saying Patra's going to have 4-point nights all the time. But if these guys are going to play consistent offense, if they're going to contribute consistently on the offensive end, how is that going to work if they're contributing above what you expected? How is that going to work when you've said, okay, if you're playing well, you're going to get a spot? When's it going to happen is what I'm going to say. When is Fabian going to get that call-up? When are you going to plug him into the lineup? Are you going to give him that call-up? Are you going to give Patra that call-up? How is this going to go? It really is a question that has crossed my mind. Because I don't want it to be where, and this is a far-fetched thing, because Lysell especially has been here since 2021 in the organization. As a first-round pick, the fact that he hasn't had like 40-something NHL games to like really play and prove himself surprises me especially. So, but all in all, what I'm trying to say is, what's it going to take before these young skilled players finally do enough to prove themselves to get that NHL call-up? And that's not to say that the team isn't playing well now. But just I'm curious. I wonder what you guys think with this. How the season's going to go. I had predicted that throughout the year, certain players would rotate in getting call-ups. and their runs of time. Minton has solidified himself as that third line C. He is so solid. He's got that locked in. No doubt about it. That goes for a lot of other players that are playing well. Husnudinov especially is too good to play AHL. Too good in my opinion. Too composed. Too structured of a player. He has a great two-way game. I think that he should stay in the NHL lineup. He should continue to play. I like where he's at. I think he's got some upside to him too. It's just because of that, when you look at the rest of the roster and how they're playing, because they're playing good, how is this going to work? How is this going to work? You know what I'm saying, guys? Like, I don't want it to get to a point where, I don't want to say we're wasting time, but it's like, you want to be able to give these guys their NHL time on ice. You want them to grow and develop so they can potentially show that they can make impact offensively at the NHL level. Because I'm not going to lie to you, Patra was legit point per game last year in the American. He was point per game. I think he had like 41 points in 40 games, or vice versa. Like, we know what he can do there. But I really want to, I don't want to like beat the bush here. Let me know what you guys think of this. Let me know what you guys think of how we're going to handle our skilled AHL forwards, how we're going to call them up, call them down, because it just really piques my curiosity, especially with how good Providence has come out of the gate. And I know it's early, but that's just my 2 cents on the topic. Going into the prospects, like the guys who aren't signed to NHL contracts. Digging deeper into our In the System segment. I posted on my Instagram this, want to touch on it a bit, and I think it's a real confidence booster, but I think it's something worth noting. 4 NHL Bruins prospects. Sorry, that was the hashtag. I'm reading off the tweet. 4 Bruins prospects scored their first NCAA goal over this past weekend. Jonathan Morello, it was an empty netter, but he's been playing very well, I must say. Considering I've been covering BU games, trust me, guy's kind of a Swiss Army knife. It's pretty cool to see. William Moore had a nice redirect against Minnesota. That was a good goal to see. Dean Letourneau, sophomore at Boston College, finally breaks through and gets his first goal. We'll get to him in a bit. And Will Zellers broke through on Sunday against St. Thomas with a pretty neat shot. So that's I love seeing that kind of stuff. A lot of the other prospects have kind of continued their scoring, so that's good to see. But I want to kind of highlight everybody's first goal, especially Dean. Real quick, I want to touch on Dean Letourneau here. We all know Dean Letourneau last season, 0 goals, 3 assists. I'm sure you guys have heard it many times when talking about him. Mind you, this guy was a late first-round draft pick, 25th overall. The original consensus on Letourneau, and it's stuck in my head ever since, because when looking at how his trajectory has gone, I don't like the perception that has been molded about him, or I don't like the perception on him with this previous knowledge of his draft profile. Let me just say it that way. Because he was considered a long-term project. When the Bruins took him, immediately the first thing I think I heard was he's a tall kid, and then they said he was a long-term project. The skill was there. When he played, I forget what league it was in high school. Hold on, I'm going to pull up his thing while I say. But when he played in high school, he had like 129 points in like 50-something games. The guy can produce. There's no doubt about that. But he was set to play in the USHL after his final season at St. Andrews College. U18 AAA, that's what it's called. 127 points in 56 games in 2023-24. That was his draft year, mind you. So he skips USHL, which I think he was called into Boston College a year early because of the departure of Will Smith. Don't quote me on that. Regardless, many in professional hockey had considered Dean's year last season as a year that was too early, like his freshman year was too early. And you could tell last year as an 18-year-old, as a 6'7" center. He was not only stashed in the lineup, I don't think he played much above the fourth line. Sometimes he wasn't even in the lineup at times, which wasn't something I liked seeing. I thought he could contribute as a middle six player, but overall last year, Letourneau had difficulty adjusting to the NCAA level. But Greg Brown had consistently said, and I stuck with him on this because I'm a Letourneau fan, I want to see the guy develop and succeed for the Bruins. I'm going for him. Sorry. But just when looking at his situation last year, and even hearing that he had a fractured hand, he played through it for the first half of the year. I remember when that came out during Bruins, not rookie camp, development camp. And I was like, when you looked at that, you say, okay, well, last year was already you have to adjust to NCAA straight up from high school, not even getting a year of play in the United States Hockey League, because that's usually how it goes. You play high school, then you play USHL, then you go to college. And especially for a long-term project like Dean, that's something that would help his trajectory better. Now, considering his lack of production last season, a lot of people looked at him and wrote him off, straight up. But to see him in his first 3 games tally an assist and then score his first goal, an amazing downhill transition play by Letourneau, a give and go, and a bar down snipe. I can't pull up the highlight, but just to see him do that and score his first NCAA goal, long overdue, first of all, in my opinion. But you watch his play, the way he's able to impact the game, the way he's able to forecheck, the way he's able to position himself. You could watch back against Quinnipiac, his first game against Quinnipiac. You could watch back those 2 games against Minnesota. A very fast-paced game that the Big Ten is. And seeing him keep up with those players in the Big Ten at his size, there's just such a fluidness to his game. It's night and day. And it should be something that Bruins fans should keep an eye on as the season goes along with the fact that, James Hagens is there, Will Moore is there, 2 absolute beautiful late-round studs, and Oscar Jelvik and Andre Gasso are there. You gotta keep an eye on Dean Letourneau, because I think he's going to be a very interesting player in terms of his development. I'm rooting for him. I'm pulling for him. To see him score a goal like that, I hope he goes on a tear. I'm trying to portray the message that the guy should go on a tear after this, or at least just continue to steadily develop. We should like this from Letourneau for sure. So all in all, that was just something I wanted to pinpoint, something I want to highlight is don't write off Dean Letourneau just yet, because you remember when he was called a long-term project. He's going to be. Give him time. So you never know. Anyways, that's kind of all I had with this podcast. So I didn't want to go too long, but yeah, no, the Bruins have been playing pretty well up until this point. They got Vegas next, Colorado next, Utah, and then the return of Brad Marchand to TD Garden against the Florida Panthers. They'll also play the Ducks too, but that's the big one. That's the big one that's leading into it. So yeah, we got some good hockey games coming up. Some late ones. I probably won't be able to recap those considering my school schedule. I also want to point out that Boston University is playing Michigan State this upcoming weekend. So any weekend games that the Bruins are going to be Vegas, Colorado, Utah, Florida, and Anaheim. So yeah, there you have it. That's what's coming on next. Yeah, Saturday night I probably wouldn't be able to. Thursday night, maybe. Let me know your thoughts on the Boston Bruins and what you think of the team and any of my thoughts. Leave them in the comments. Feel free to do that. I'd love to look at them, read them, intake them, and just hear you guys' general feedback on what you think of the podcast and everything, and my content as a whole. I love you guys. I appreciate y'all who listen. I appreciate y'all who engage, because I love doing this. I love the Bruins. I love you guys, the Bruins community. You guys are the best. So yeah, that's all I got for the podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you legends in the next one. Bye-bye.